Hi and welcome. I'm having some lighting issues and I apologize. I know there's a glare. Hopefully it's showing up okay on your end. We have an overcast day, so the lighting's not that great. But finally, we're going to make the pages for the album we did with the picnic basket. Now the tutorial for the picnic basket is here on YouTube, and also the tutorial how I covered the album with the fabric, and then I matted it with paper. And there's two, this is one, the style I did in the video. I'll show you how I did another one. I did put paper here. For this one, I'm going to leave it. I really like the fabric. So this is a fabric covered album. And in the video, I told you to go ahead and make your basic pages at 6 inches by 7.5 inches long. And because I've had a lot of requests for the tutorial on this one, I decided to do the pages, just like this album. This is a bigger album, but we're going to do the same design, just smaller. So you're going to start out with a pocket, and these pockets are fantastic so that you can put in your, recipes that you clip out of magazines, or maybe you just want some loose recipe cards. Then you're going to have on the inside cover, we're going to have a flap, and then you'll have 2 pockets. And of course, it'll be sized down because the album that we're making for the home, our other one here, Homestead, it's not as wide. So we then will have, we're going to have the flap, and we'll have the 2 layouts. And then we're going to just have the full size one with the full. The pullouts, though, are going to be on the sides instead of the top, of course. You're going to have this page, and then inside I'm going to use tags, and I'll show you again how I did these in the tutorial so that you will be able to make these. And then they're just really cute to stick down inside. And then we're going to do a fold out, and we'll do another one. It'll be the triple, and then there's going to be a waterfall with your pockets to hold recipes in. And then we're going to have the pull out. Again, you can put a picture or a recipe here. So if you have the Gravik 45 Sweet Home line, look how wonderful these actually will go really great with the paper. These are the ephemera cards, and we can use the back of them. And then we're going to end with a pocket. So you'll have another pocket where you can put more loose recipes. And then on the back, there's a belly band, and we'll do the same little foldovers to make it look like the kitchen towels. And of course, then a tag can go back behind there. So that's the style of album we're going to do with our fabric cover lined album. So you should have gone ahead in the first video. I had you go ahead and make your base pages, and hopefully, I know this one has taken me longer. I apologize. So our pages are 6 by 7.5. So for our first cut, we're going to need a 7.5 inch piece of paper, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut mine at 4 inches wide, and that's going to be our pocket. So we'll start with 7.5 long and 4 inches wide. So I'll be cutting as we're going along. Excuse me. My cutter's to the left of me. It's very large, so it doesn't fit in the camera. So I'll just be right here, but going back and forth. So now on the 4 inch side going down, you want to go ahead and score it at 1/2 inch. And I am using the Cartabella, the navy blue cardstock. Now, for my pocket, what I'm going to do, inside the pocket here, I'm actually going to put this, and we are going to miter these edges. In fact, we may cut this down just a hair. This is going to be our fold over, and so I want to put this on the inside of my page. Now, we need it to be just a hair smaller. I think I cut mine too long. but I'm going to cut it off again at about 1/8 of an inch shorter. Excuse me. Because you want it to fit inside of that pocket. And so you're going to want to try it a couple of times just to make sure. We don't need to trim it down. Okay, now it should be a little snug. We're going to miter those corners. And once you are comfortable with the fit, like I said, it should be snug, but not super tight. On the back side here is where we're going to put our score tape. Oh, you know, I needed to check my supplies and I didn't. Grab this. Sorry, I took a... Hold on, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'll try this again. Don't ever eat almonds before you want to start recording. It never fails. They get stuck. All right, so I'm going to put my score tape. And then go ahead and get those corners cut off there. Now, you can decide what you want to do with... Oh my goodness. Wow, that's not a good way to start off a video. Twice. I apologize. Okay, you can decide what you want to do with your corners. You can round them. You can leave them. I'm going to use the envelope punch board like I did in the other one. Now, how I do these is if you have an envelope punch board, you'll notice right there at that edge, over here by the little piece that sticks out, if you just put your paper right to that edge, like so, and punch, you get that really cute corner. And then I just turn my paper over and punch it again. And then when I go to mat it, I'll do the same thing with the matting. So I'm going to leave my punch board out because I believe I used it in that album in a couple of other places. This blue paper likes to pick up all kinds of stuff. Now what I'm doing first, because I want to make sure that I get this lined up, because now if you trimmed it, you need to center it a little bit more. But I don't want to risk having it move. So I'm just going to put a little paper clip there. Turning this over, because we're going to have it stick to the opposite side. I'm just going to, there we go, bring that up, secure that edge, okay. Now, you won't be able to use a tag if you do it this way, and that is what I wanted. I don't want to have every single pocket have a tag. Now, if for some reason you do want it to have a tag, then you can go ahead and adhere it to this side, but you're going to lose this pocket effect. So if you want just to flap over and then be able to use your whole pocket, but this is kind of the purpose here, is to have this pocket here. Now, it's up to you. You might want to go ahead and use a corner rounder and just put it in halfway if you want to have a notch here. On this one, I didn't do it on this page, but back here, I did do it for variation by using my envelope punch board. So I'm going to do it again on the back one, but not on the front one. It just gives it a little different look. So you're going to need your magnets, and I would suggest that you use a large magnet, but if all you have is small, that's okay too. And I have some that I was able to get from Basic Gray that didn't have the tape on, because they had some that came through that way, and so they gave them to me, and I'm going to use those. And as you know, I can still provide us with the Basic Gray magnets. The large ones right now, he is out, the owner of Basic Gray, because they got stuck, I guess, in a machine. I don't know. There was quality problems, so he had them redone. But I'll have the large back in stock the end of April. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my tape over. And there's the pocket, and that is how you make a pocket. Now on the back, I did the flap, and then I wanted just 2 spots, maybe to put pictures of when the kids helped in the kitchen, or maybe you have pictures of family members. So we're going to do that on the back. And let me just grab the, so I want to show you 2 different things you can use. Because the cut-aparts are smaller than the Graphic 45 Home Sweet Home, and this won't give us, this doesn't give me the big enough flap. It'll be great for other things. This page, if you're using this paper line, the Homestead line, you have this page that is just, it's really cute. It has a lot of different areas you can cut. So this one, I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to actually just lay it here. So I'm going to cut it down here to the bottom of this line where it says Peter and then California eggs and cheese. So I'm going to cut it here and then just around. Let's see. Yeah. Cut it right to that bottom. And then see, we're going to have a lot of these left over, these cute little things to use. So just put those aside. And so I'm just going to go ahead and center it for now to get an idea of the look. Now this is just a hair over 4 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and cut using my blue, the same color. I'm going to cut it at 4 1/2. No, I'm going to cut, yeah, 4 1/2 wide. And it's 6 1/2 long, but we need to make sure that we can, we have that 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut it at 7 inches. I'll move this a little bit so you can see. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/2 by 7. But I'm going to go probably 7 1/8 because we want to make sure that there's enough room. So 7 1/8 long by 4 1/2 wide. Because here's the beauty of it. Say maybe this is not, we want more of a border. We can always cut this down just a hair. We can trim those edges. I think that looks great. I'm going to go ahead and score it at the top at 1/2 inch. And we may be having to trim just a little bit on our image. And that's okay. Or you could even, if you wanted, you could have, you can score less than 1/2 inch, but I still like to stick at my 1/2 inch. Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm just going to trim this a little bit at the top, just a little bit. I mean, like 1/32 inch, just barely. Didn't take away. And I think I'll go ahead and trim my sides just a hair. There we go. I think it looks great. So I'm going to go ahead with my Distress ink, and I will be using Vintage Photo throughout. Vintage Photo goes really well with this. You could even use the navy blue if you had some navy blue, but this matches the writing. Looks good. So back here on my flat, I'm going to use my 3/8 of an inch there, and then my 1/4 of an inch on here. One thing I like to do when doing my albums, I really like to coordinate my front and back pages. So whereas I'm using this for the flap, then I'm going to probably use the houses behind there to really give it the coordinated look, since it's the back of the paper. And that is how a lot of times I do most of my albums, because I do get that question often, how do you decide what papers to use? I just go front, back, front, back. Okay, once that's down, so this is going to go on the back of our pocket, and I'm turning mine upside down. Now I want to find the center also. So we know our center's at 3. There's a couple ways when you're using the Score Pal mat. I love it. So you have measurements all over the place. We just went out of focus. There's measurements going left, right, up, down on this Score Pal mat. I love it. It helps me to center things without really measuring. And then this is 4.5, so I know at 2.5. I glance. It's still not a perfect science. If you want to get perfect, you can go ahead and definitely mark everything. Again, because I don't like to always find my replacement once I've set it. I just hold it down, remove my score tape. And then once again, I'm going to use another magnet to hold my flat down. Another great thing about your Score Pal, if you have one, you have a magnet holder basically up at the top. It has a lot of purposes on this mat that you can, dual purposes. Okay. Oops, I'm just going to remove that. That way it won't come up when I put my flat down. No, my camera had to be reset on the pole, and it just doesn't in frame very much. Okay, so on our front, we have our pocket, and we have all of our magnets that got picked up, and then you'll have your flap, and then we'll put on here. It'll be different. I think and I'll go through it with you. I'm going to do probably 2 lengthy but shorter photo mats. And on to our next page. So on here then, what I did on the Home Sweet Home, I was able to just use the whole, you know, cover page. And so that's what I'm going to do with Homestead, because I really want to showcase this. So that's going to be the page that I mat with. And so the back, we're going to be making this pocket flap. But we're going to, of course, it'll be a little bit smaller. So this page is going to be that. So just go ahead and flip it over. So you want to make sure you put your hinge over here on the left-hand side. Now taking my paper, I'm going to go ahead and cut it at 7.5. and I'm going to go ahead and cut mine at 6. I only want to have the 1/2 inch where this is smaller because I still want a good amount of pocket. Go ahead and score it at 1/2. Make sure. I don't want it to hang over anywhere, so I am just going to trim a hair. And I'm going to go ahead and put my mat down and then build my pocket on the top. And because this is the full length, I'm going to go ahead and cut those corners. You want it to hide under your matting. Now remember, this is going to go over here on the left-hand side, your hinge side. Just going to remove a small amount. Line everything up. I call this my thumb chase. That way your page doesn't move. Just open this one. Now for the pockets, I'm going to use a punch. And I used quite a deep punch for this other one because it is much larger. I used quite a large one, but I'm not going to on this one. I'm going to use a smaller Martha Stewart punch. And what we're going to do, so now we're looking at 5.5 inches wide. I'm going to start with, these pieces I have are 7.5 by 8. So that's what I'm going to cut this down to 5.5. You don't have to use that size. It's just what I have sitting here, just so you know. And then our page is 7.5. Okay, ignore what I just told you. Cut your page at 6.5. Like I said, we're doing this together, so I'm just kind of getting, now I want the full size tag. And I'm just trying to decide here. So I'm going to cut this down to 4.25. So your first one is going to be 6.5 by 4.25. And then I'm going to go ahead and punch out my top edge. Now for the top pocket, you don't need to score the bottom because I want the tag to go, let's see, did I make that one go all the way through? Actually, yes. So we're going to score the edges at 1/2 inch. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and miter that off so it doesn't show. And this is kind of hard. What I'm doing is, so that I can tell you exactly, I am coming down 2 inches from the top if you want the measurement. So I'm going to leave about 2 inches. Now you don't have to if you want it to be higher. I'm going to leave like 2 inches. Again, I've got my mark here on the side also I can use for my first pocket. I'm making sure everything's going to fit. And take that tape off. I noticed I had some hanging over. So here's my 2 inches. So that's giving me a 2 inch at the top. And then with my paper right up against my scoreboard, that gives me the edge. So see, I can put it right on there. And then you should just be fine to remove the tape from the other side and put it right down. Now this will enable us to have the tall tag. I will be using the graphic 45 taller tags because I do want it to go down. Now we need to make our next pocket. And I'm just looking for my height. That looks good. So I'm going to cut it 6.5 by 4, a piece of the paper. And I'm just going through my scraps first to see if I have anything before I get out a brand new paper. Looks like I'm going to have to open a new pack. Hi, so I lost a section. Let me go back. I went to open the brand new pack of paper to make this bottom piece, and that's where somehow I didn't turn the video back on. So I cut my page, for this bottom pocket at 6.5, and I cut it at 4. Then I went ahead and did my decorative edge just like we did here. But I scored my 3 sides to make a pocket, just in case. Let me go ahead and grab a sheet if you've never made one. So on that, you're going to score 3 sides, and then you're going to put it down. Where we did the one side for the top, so the tag would come all the way through, we're doing the 3 sides. Then you're going to go ahead and fold them up. Now, this is kind of a mock page because, like I said, I just lost it. After you put down your adhesive, if you're using score tape, go ahead and miter your corners. I need to watch my keyboard better that I don't hit it. Okay. Now, fold these up. Once you take off this bottom piece, these 2 sides will stick. And then I just put my page against my score pal, and once again I lined it up. I put it down. Of course this doesn't fit, and that was how we did that pocket. I'm so sorry that happened, but it did. So now for the back side of this one, this is where we were doing just that collage type paper. So this is that page. So we can set that one aside. Now on your other page, now we're going to be doing the fold out. This is where I lost the rest of the video. We're going to be making this fold out. Of course, it'll be a little different size, so I'm going to be sizing it as we're going. And I still want it to be good size, but I still have to remember the size of our page. And thinking that looks pretty good. So I'd cut this at 5 by 5. So that's what I'm going to do. So go ahead and cut a base at 5 by 5. Then you're going to need 2 more pieces that are 5.5 by 5. So cut 1 5 by 5 and 2 5.5 by 5. Okay, just set your base piece aside. Now on the 5.5 inch side, go ahead and score at 1/2 of an inch. Grab that base. Turn these over. Let's go ahead with our score tape. And you are going to want to cut these corners. Miter them off so they hide underneath your pattern paper. Let's do the garbage. Now on your, because it's a square, it doesn't matter which side you start with. But I like to always make sure everything's lined up and going to fit properly. I'm just going to release, a corner of my score tape. Okay, now you're going to want another one. Now, one thing before I put this down, I'm going to check for is, will this close? Because sometimes you want to trim just a hair off, and I mean just a hair, just a sliver, and that way you'll get a better fit, especially when you get bulk in there. So once you've cut it down a little bit, if you want to, and I would suggest you do, well, if I can get a hold of it. There we go. Make sure it's all lined up. That looks good. Now this is going to be down, and this will be our base that comes up. Now in the center, I want another one, and I'm going to cut it at 5. Again, I'm going to cut it at 5 by 5.5. And make sure side by side, just laying it here. And since I've got a little resistance, I'm just going to cut off tiny bit of the edge. See, just a little, whoop, just a little bit. Because I want it to fit nicely. And that's going to fit nicely. Then we can go ahead and score it. of an inch. And before I even get my tape or anything on, I want to look at it and make sure there's no hanging over the bottom. So again, I'm just going to take off a tiny bit so it fits in there very nice. If you've been following my tutorials, then you pretty much know I don't pre-plan what I make. And so that's why I have a lot of adjusting as I go. And again, I'm just going to open that corner. Center it down. So let's make sure everything will close. Even though, let's see, actually this is the piece that's going to be solid. It's going to be stationary down. Opens, opens. And this closes, closes. Now we need to make our, this goes down, that comes over. There we go. Been a while since I made this one. Okay, this is down, but we're going to have our flap here, so we need to make our flap. And this is going to come like this, like this. This will fold in, and then our flap will come over. There we go. Like I said, it's been a while. So now we're going to cut another piece that's 5 inches by 3 inches. So 5 by 3. Three and a half by 5. Okay, so it's 3 and a half by 5. Two things. I'm going to use the envelope punch board. And just on, it doesn't matter what edge, because I haven't scored it yet at the 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do that edge. And then on this one, on the last page, again, I'm just going to go ahead and do those corners. And then for our fold over flap, let's go ahead with the 1/2 inch. Now we're going to attach this. See, this is going to be down, so this is going to be on the back side of here, and then when that closes, that's where that comes up. So we're going through quite a bit of thickness. So we're going to score again. We've got the 1/2 inch and scored a 1/4. So we have that 1/4 inch gusset. So you have that edge there because you have more than one layer folding over. Okay, that needs to be on the inside. Now we're going to go ahead and attach it to the back side so you don't have to worry about mitering your corners. And when you put this down, just put it right up to that first score line. that's on the back side. Now I need my magnet. And you can get away with the small one on this one. I'm still just going to go ahead and use my large. And I know sometimes the large may seem like overkill. I like to make sure everything stays shut. And of course, make sure you're leaving enough room so that you can hide your magnet under your paper. And then I'm going to go ahead and use one of my score sheets. I want to make sure this stays down on my page. So I'm going to cut it about, just a little less than 5. So this was one of the 6x6 sheets. So this is what I had left, and I will be using those. And then I can just put this on the back. And if you've never used these, they're wonderful. And you do get 6 of them, or 5 of them, to a package. You get 5 6x6 sheets, and I'll tell you, there are so many uses for them. That on the back. Now for this one, because I want to put it down, I'm going to go ahead and pick out my pattern paper for this, and I'm going to use one that's a little more, let me show you, solid, you know, just plain, the wooden, because I want to make sure it'll match with whatever is on that other page, and most of it's going to be covered, so we don't have to, we don't want a really decorated one. So I'm going to cut it down to fit my page, and I usually take 1/8 of an inch off of each side to 1/4 of an inch, and that just depends on how much border you want on your page. Ink the edges. Whenever I'm doing my pages, I don't fully decorate them until after they're inside the book. Then I can gauge better how much room I have. Now for this one, I'll do 1/2 inch gussets. And instead of the 3/8, because I know you want a lot of room for your recipes. But when I'm doing add-ons like this, sometimes I will go ahead, mount the page before it goes in the book. Because I want to, first of all, get it down. And it just kind of makes it go by quicker. Make sure there's no score tape hanging over our edges. Okay, now you can see better too. So kind of get your angle, decide how you want it to go. If you want it just to be straight, if you want it at a down angle, but it needs to fit on your page, of course. And then whatever adhesive you're using. Okay, once you're down, you want to open it. And you'll see how much more room that adds. And yet they are 5 by 5, so they're nice, good size. And now it's angled, and then I'll be decorating the top like I did in the other, and maybe just put a little button, a few embellishments down here at the bottom. So that's all there is to that one. Now on the back, I'm going to go ahead and mat it again because we're going to do another fold out, a trifold. And since I've got the apples, I think I'll go ahead with those from the other side. And I'm just going to go ahead and get the page matted. And it will be ready for us to do our trifold. And when I do trifolds, or you know, things that are going to be tugged and pulled on, I will go across the center of my matting just to give the paper a little extra strength. Keep forgetting I have magnets up there. Make sure you don't put this on upside down. Check the orientation of your page. Getting a little crooked here for some reason. Okay, now we need to make our trifold. Oh, nope, we need to back up. We've got 2 pockets to make on the other side. I'm glad I looked. Then we'll go on and we'll make our trifold. So we need to make our little pockets. And these are really, really simple. You'll have all kinds of scraps. So just go ahead and grab a scrap. And we made these 5 inches. So let's go ahead and cut our first one. Okay, so you're going to need a 2.5 inch by 6 inch piece. And let me just go through my scraps. And actually go ahead and cut 2 of them. Cut 2 of the 6 by 2.5 inch. Okay, on our first one, we're only going to score the 2 sides. Now we can score all 3 sides at the 1/2 inch. And fold those up. And let's just check our fit. Mine looks good, but we need to check our placement. I'm not too worried about the sides because we don't want it to go past there. Okay, so once I get my placement, I am going to move this bottom one, and I'm going to mark the bottom of my paper. I don't know if you can see that. That's where I want the bottom of the pocket to hit. Now for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and miter the top. I think I picked up, I did. I picked up a piece of score tape. Let me just take that off. Okay, now I'm going to remove. For this being such a small, I just remove both. You don't have to if you're more comfortable just removing a portion of it. And then for this one, let's go ahead and do it for our sides. Add our score tape. Okay, I'm having a magnet crisis. There we go. They're sticking to everything. Okay, let's go ahead and miter all of our corners. Stick my sides down, and again, because it's a pretty small area to work with, just going to remove both. Make sure we don't go past that score line because we want it to close. There we go. Now we have a nice long pocket. Then we have a shorter pocket, which is going to be a really cute area for, see how we have these extras that were cut from, and you're going to have quite a few of that if you're going to be using this Homestead line. See how nice these will go in because they're smaller pieces, but they're still decorative pieces. And you can also use the life cards that come with the line that are smaller, or the cut aparts that are actually on the sheets, because they're 3x4s. So they'll fit really nice. Here they are. Something went flying. So if you want to use the life cards that are in the line, see, these will fit perfect, or they'll go sideways inside these little pockets, and then everything just folds up. Those aside. Now we can get on with our trifold. And again, I think I'm going to go ahead with a little bit bigger, with a 5.5. So let's cut a 5.5 by 6. Okay, I want to check that out. I think it's too big, so let's go ahead. Let's keep the 5.5, but let's cut it down to 5. You can keep it that wide if you like. There we go. I like that better. I want more of a border. So what I cut was 5 by 5.5. So now I need to cut 2 more pieces that are going to be 5 width, but they need to be 6 long because we have to make the 1/2 inch score line. So 2 pieces that are 5 by 6. Okay, on our 6-inch pieces, on the 6-inch side, you're going to score 1/2 inch. Now on the flat, on this one, I did the 1/2 inch rounded corners. Again, this is going to be flat. This is what we're going to adhere to our page. Score tape down. Cut my corners. And you know, there are 2 ways that you can always do this. You can always adhere them to the back. You can just adhere them to the front. And I think that's what we'll do, is adhere it to the back. Sorry. Just bend that backwards. Rescore. Yes, I did adhere them to the back. Okay, get everything lined up. So you're just going to put it at the back, wrap it around that edge. So you'll have your scores in the back. And once again, you've got lots of added room there. So let's go ahead and put our adhesive on the back. Let's go ahead and cut another piece. Went just a little too short. So let me grab one of my pieces. And I know some of you may be thinking that's an awful lot of score tape, but not really. This is all cut from those pages. And then also, I know my fold out is going to last for years. It's not going to come apart. It's going to stay on the page. And that's what you want, because you want these to last and last and last. Okay, once you get your placement, open it up. Just make sure everything's down nice and tight. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a magnet to my flap, just like we have been. Make sure we always leave enough room at the top. There we go. So we have now this side, and you'll just go ahead and decorate it however you like. Then we have our cute little fold out, and then we have another one on the back that just really increases space. Okay, there's page number 3. Let me just kind of get get things in order here. So I have my pocket. That one's going to be the real decorative paper. There's our pocket page, and then we have that one and that one. So our next one, oh, we're going to do the bigger waterfall with the waterfall pockets. So what I want to do is just get an idea of how deep I made each one. That's right, we had a 1 inch. But we're going to have to cut ours down a little bit. So let me start with the 5 by 6. Okay, for our waterfall, I decided to cut my base. And this is going to be the base of our waterfall. Let me get us in camera here. I cut my base page at 5.5 by 7. And then I cut 3, so I did the pre-cutting. 3 of the waterfall pieces are going to be 5.5 by 5.5. And then for this one, you're going to score it 1 inch. And I'm going to go ahead with my 3/4 score tape. Sorry. You can use any size score tape. Excuse me. But you do want the 2 pieces. You know what? I did it again. So I had to stop recording last night, and then I picked up, and of course, silly me, some almonds are sitting here on my desk, so I took a few and put them in my mouth before I started recording. For some reason, they always get stuck. All right, make sure you don't have any score tape hanging over your edges. And then on our base is where we're going to build our waterfall. And then because it's not as big as when I made the 8 by 8 album, I still want a pocket, and we will be building the pocket on here. Now, once again, I'm just going to remove 1/4 to 1/2 of the score tape. Line it up right there. There we go. Remove the backing. Now, so you have that 1 inch. And I still like to work with mine basically upside down. And I am going to go ahead. It's a smaller, the 5.5 inch. So now I'm comfortable with removing all my score tape. And at the edge where that 1 inch is where you're going to start your next waterfall. And then this waterfall is a little bit different because you're going to have more of a space down here, and I wanted that space because I want the pocket to show a little bit. Okay, and there's our waterfall. So now we can go ahead and build our pocket, and it's going to be 5.5 or 6.5 inches long. And let me grab my scraps. So you should have plenty of scraps here. So let me see what I've got. Yeah, and I know I want them to be at least 2.5 inches wide. Not long enough. I may have to go ahead and cut, because you're going to want, each one will have a pocket. 1, 2, 3. So there's 4 pockets. And with these, let me see, did I use a magnet? Oh, you know what? I did not. In fact, because of the weight. Sorry, I have a cat down here. They've decided to start fighting. The weight, when you put the pocket on, and then your cards basically will hold your album, your waterfall part shut. So we won't be using any magnets on there at all. So, like I said, we're going to want 4 pieces that are at least the 6.5 inches long. And I'm going with 2.5 inches wide. And it looks like, cool. I can use those scraps up. So I will get these cut. At 6.5 by 2.5. Sorry, even though it's quiet, I'm right here. And I have one more. Okay. And let me just check the length of everything. And we're okay. Now we want to go ahead and score all 3 sides for our pockets. Oops, make sure we get to the bottom. And I'm just scoring at 1/2 inch. Very seldom do I use any other measurements on my pockets unless they're tiny pockets. Sometimes I'll go with 1/4 inch, but not very often. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead with my score tape on each one of them. And one more. Go ahead and cut all of our edges. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my first one. Get it bent up. And sometimes I do it before. It doesn't matter. But I do want to go ahead and check the width. I'm not concerned too much on the length. Okay, just making sure my width is good. And I open mine so I can lay it flat. And remove our tape backing. Line it up with the bottom. And there we have our first pocket. Just need to cut that off. Some of the tape was showing. Okay, now this is the page 3, and a lot of times, because it's hard when I don't have paper to see the difference when you're working, especially with a dark one, I like to put a lighter paper behind there if I'm not going to open it flat. It just helps to see where to put it. And then our last pocket. And again, you'll want to know what paper you're going to use for your background on this page, because we need to put that down first. Before we can put this down. Okay. I thought so. I got that last one just a little bit off. So I'm just going to actually push that down and get things more lined up. So there we have our pockets, and once you mat, like I said, it will be enough to hold this flat. So you'll have the pockets, and again, that's going to be a really good place. So if you want to use your cut aparts, or if you do have this line of paper, the life cards will fit in there perfectly. And then again, I do want to get the adhesive on the back. And it's not going to be completely long enough. So I'm going to put this one at the top, since I'm not using an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then the 1/2 inch that I cut off the bottom, or cut off to make it 5.5 inches, I'm just going to put right here on the bottom. And these sheets are great, you can tear them. And I'm going to go ahead. I want to cover this one. I think I'll go ahead and use the houses. So I'm going to cut my matting, but I take that back. Let me grab this one. Let me see. We use the apples, so actually I'm going to kind of coordinate. We've already used that, so I'm going to use this checkered one, or the chickens. Let me go ahead and cut it. And let me see. I'm not sure if we'll see too much of our chickens, but that's okay. I like the light background. And because we have a little bit heavier element here, I'm going to go ahead and go down the middle. Make sure there's no score tape sticking out your edges. And then this is, there's really no, it's going to just fit because we cut it to 7. We've only got that 1/4 inch at each end, so it's going to fit pretty much anywhere you put it. And then go ahead and open each one of your flaps because you do want to burnish that down good. Okay. Now on the back side, once again, for this this one we're going to do, there's a photo mat, and then we're going to be able to put a tag across, but I'm thinking, yeah, because we'll just have to cut, we'll use smaller pieces of our matting anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and choose what I'd like to mat this with. Oh, I hate to cut that one. In fact, I love all this paper. I hate, oh, here we go. I hate to cut it, but I just found one. And you will want a coordinating, so I think I'll just use the front and back of this because we're going to make the photo mat. So let's go ahead and cut our matting for the page first. One thing nice when you make the 6-inch pages, you're able to get a lot more mileage out of your paper because you can cut, your 6-inch Being 12 inches, you get 2 of them out instead of just, excuse me, instead of just one. So it does go a little bit further. And again, we're going to have an element on here that will be tugged and pulled at because we're going to be putting a mat through it that is usable. And then we'll have another mat that is your photo mat. So I want to put that strip down the middle for security. Now for our photo mat, and to put it through, so I'm going to go, it looks like 4 3/4. So 4 4 3/4 wide and 6 inches long. And I'm going to use the blue paper that I made my pages out of. And of course, you can always adjust the size that you want. Okay, let's go ahead and cut the matting of the paper that you want to use. I'm hoping that this just might fit. And it will save me some more paper. My mat piece did fit, so I went ahead and taped it. I had to grab the phone there. And I'm going to go ahead and mat this. And then because we want the sides open, we're only going to tape the top and the bottom. And because I don't want my tags to get stuck, I am going to use, you can use a wet adhesive. I think New Lady 1949, she uses Glossy Accents. So either one, I don't know. Sometimes my Glossy Accents does not want to come out. No matter what I do with my bottle, or clean it, or baby wipe it, it just will not stay open. It just kind of has a mind of its own. Then just right at the top is where you want to put your wet adhesive of your score tape if you're using score tape, so that it makes a seal and then your tag doesn't get stuck. And then make sure you have it going the right direction. And go ahead and center it. Now we need to make our card that will go in here. So let me grab my ruler. Because we did glue it down with the 1/4 inch. Okay, I'm going to cut my card 5 1/2. Whoops, there goes the camera. I keep forgetting about my ruler. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to start it at 5 1/2 wide. And yeah, that's going to be too tall. So let's go with 5. Actually, 4 3/4. 4 3/4 seems pretty good. Now I'm just glancing to see how much it will stick out. So it's going to stick out too much. So I'm not going to leave it at 12. I am going to cut it down to 10. So mine's 4 3/4 by 10. And I'll score mine a 5. Now where it was a different size, I was able to use, you know, the recipe cards. But on here, I'll just use the paper, and I will mat this, and then see when it goes in. Now it's up to you. You can put a magnet on the inside here, and then on this back side. Need to trim a little bit. So when it comes through, if you don't want it flopping, and I just left mine to flop, but you can have the magnet there, and it will close it nicely. And you're going to want to use a large magnet. Now once you get this matted, it will lay a little bit flatter. And then that one and that one is done. So now for our last page. So we have, and this is going to be the front, is going to be that pocket page. And because I goofed and I didn't pre-cut this with my envelope punch board, I'm just going to leave it straight. But you still can take a circle punch and punch that out if you like. I'm just going to leave mine straight like the first one. So we're going to make our pocket, and then on the back we're going to make our belly band, and we'll make these towel looking cards to fold over. So basically I'm going to do the same thing. We have a 7.5 inch, and again you should have some leftover papers, and I'm going to cut it according to our first one. We're going to cut it down to 4 inches. Now remember, we had to trim, or I had to trim mine just a little bit to have it fit in the pocket nicely. So I'm going to take off about 1/8 of an inch. Whoops, might have if I put it inside the cutter. Remember, it should go in pretty easy, but not incredibly hard, because also you want it to not crease on the edges. So I'm just going to take a hair more off. I'm going to score it my 1/2 of an inch, and again I'm going to use my envelope punch board though for my corners. And I'm just going to put it in until it comes to this little thingy there. And then your adhesive. Miter your corners. I know, I always turn that to the wrong side. Oh no, it was correct. I just needed to turn this over. Okay, I'm going to fit it inside. Get everything lined up. Just hold it down for me. Okay, once you get it down, then you can remove. That's sticking up there a little far, and I'm not sure why. I need to find out. And I think it has to do with, it needs to be on the opposite side of where we've scored it and put our pages together, because, yeah, that was keeping it from, no, it's still doing it. Let me try it on this side. Sorry about this, but I don't want that. There we go. That's a much nicer fit. Okay, I'm going to just remove here at the top. Ah. There, now see, it's flush. Because if you have that score tape hanging over the edge and it's sticking up, you're not going to get that fixed. There's our pocket. Again, I'll need magnets. Or what, you know, you can use any closure. If you want to use a swing tab or no closure. For it in the middle. There we have our back pocket, and now we can move on to our belly band. And again, I have plenty of scraps, so I'm going to cut this 7 inches, and mine is it's about 1 3/4. And again, that's kind of just personal preference. You can even go really skinny if you want. So that's just up to you. When you go a little bit wider, you will see more of your decorative paper that you put on your belly band. And then on each end, score it 1/2. And then your adhesive. And I do these a couple of different ways. If you want to do them and wrap your paper before you put it down, that's one way. Sometimes I do, sometimes I just put down right on top and then slide my paper through. And again, it's just preference. Where do you want yours? So your page is 7 1/2. If you want to put it in the center, then you'll go ahead and get it all centered up and measured. I just pick a spot, and I did want this one a little closer to the top because our cards might be a little bit bigger. And sorry, I'm doing a video and I'm watching my text messages. We left the hospital. We're waiting for a grandbaby and she just didn't come, so I came home to finish my video. So if I go quiet for a minute when you hear that beep, it's because I'm just reading. Apologize. Okay, next we have to decide. And basically, to be honest with you, with the size of this, unless you want to make two really tiny ones, and you can do that. You can just use your paper and make two, you know, that might be cute actually, little towels. Let's do that. And then I will cut it with the designer paper and decorate instead of using one of my cut aparts. So our page is 6. So we know we probably want to go 2.5 inches wide. Let's try that. Actually, I'm going to go 2 3/4 wide. And mine is 6.5 inches long. And these are just scrap pieces of paper. That's kind of why I'm just practicing. So that's 3 1/4. So whatever size you choose, I like that. So let me get another one. I'm trying to use up all my scraps. There we go. I want a little bit narrow, a little more narrow. So I'm just going to bring this one down. So, you know, it brought it down to 2.5. I think I do like that better. And then again, oops, I'm gonna score this at 3 1/4. You can make these any size you like. So if you want it to be longer, you know, your measurements may be different than mine. And I like that actually, with the two that look like the towels. Now, one thing that I'm going to do once I get into the decorating, I'll use my ribbon, but it's going to go underneath my decorator paper, my pattern paper, to make my ties. Let me show you. See, what I put it underneath the paper in the back. So when it comes through, then I can just tie them and they won't go anywhere. Now here at the bottom, I used a chipboard that came with the Home Sweet Home line, and I just attached the bottom piece, and I'll do that again using the sticker sheets from this line. But what I'm going to do is I'll back it with cardstock first or chipboard to make it stronger, and it will sit right here. And then there is our back page, and there is our pocket. So now we have all of our pages together, and we just need to do the inside now of our book. We also will need to make our hinges. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to make a fold over pocket like this one, and then I just took one of these cutouts. So if you have any old recipe books or you have any old or graphics, that's all this was. And then I scanned it and I cut it out, and then I popped it up on pop dots on top. So I just made the pocket, double pocket, to go on the inside. Then back here, this was just a printout. And again, you can find this, just Google vintage measurement charts, and you'll get tons of them. Then just print one off, resize it, and you can put it in the back of your book. So that's what's going to go in the back of mine also. I'm going to resize it again. And let's do our cover though. So I'm going to make my first base. Actually, I'm going to make it 6. Let me see how far I went up with that one. Oh yeah, I'm going to go 6 by 7. I'm going to have to move this over. And the problem is I've already glued this down, so we're going to have to incorporate. If you've done your cover like this, we're going to have to incorporate or make this smaller. So let's go 5 1/2. Put a little more on the edge. And I am going to cut mine down to 5.5 by 5 3/4. And I'm thinking because we cut this size down, it's going to have to be only one pocket, which is okay. We were working with the smaller album. So let's cut another piece for our flap that is 5.5 wide by 6 1/4 long. So we need to make our flap. So 5.5 wide and then 6 1/4 long. And I'm going to go ahead with my corners again so they match. Score at 1/2 of an inch. Oh no, yeah, 1/2, not 1. And I hope that, you know, watching this tutorial, you can see how easy putting albums together are. And things come together really quick. I like the way that fits. I'm going to go ahead and score tape the back. Make sure we're all lined up. And I'm not going to put my magnet down until we make our pocket. So let's see what we have left for our scratch paper. For my pocket, I just cut a 6.5 by 3.5 inch piece since I'm going down to just the one pocket. And you probably could still do your 2 pockets. If you want 2 pockets, just do it shorter and do it just like we did for the page with the flap and pockets. And I'm going to go ahead and do my decorative edge with this one for the inside. Ah, kind of got stuck here. There, well, it still wants to stick. Let's miter all of our corners again. Oh, wrong one. We don't want to put that in there yet. And I should have, excuse me, I have the hiccups. Ah, see, I didn't double check the size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on, and I'm still going to use this. But because of my cutter, I'm actually going to take a hair of this off. And let me just get over here and trim my edge off. And if I didn't have my cutter, I would have just left it and then put this on top of the pattern paper instead of, you know, throwing it away. But now that I've got my big cutter so I could cut it. I'm going to put it right there on the inside. And then I want to go ahead and get my large mat. I apologize about all the starting and stopping. But it's better than just going through and having that silence there. Okay. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use my my score tape larger sheets for the back, because this is on the inside of my cover. Now I want to make sure I get it up enough, but not too close, that I can cover it with my pattern paper, and this isn't too close to the edge. Turn this over. Let's see. That's right, 5.5 by 5.5. Let me just cut this down. Oh, did it again. I cut it too short. That's okay. We've got lots of scraps. That's not bad at all. Since I know I'm going to be putting this down, I'm just going to remove the backing. Go ahead, put this piece down. Okay, for the inside cover, I need to make sure I know where I want to put this before I put this down. Push that over. And there I have my pocket. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, and I need to measure this because I'm pretty sure when I made it, yeah, I made it for my 3/8. Let me check something. This is a 1/2 inch. Nope, I did it for a 1/2 inch. This is for another album, so I'm glad I had it. So I am going to do my 1/2 inch gussets on this album. And I want to grab my paper. And we know our pages are 7.5 inches long. For my hinges, I started with a piece that is 7 3/8 wide. And I'm going to leave it at 12 until I'm done, since I'm doing long, the 1/2 inch gussets. And one thing I like to do, because I don't like to miter my hinges, I like to make sure it'll fit in. It'll go in there nice and smooth, but be a little snug. I don't want my page to move back and forth. Now on my cutter, 7 3/8 is just the line between the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch. And then I always start at 1 1/4. This one's going to be easy because we're doing 1/2 inch gussets. So we're going to go all the way down. I'm going to score 1 1/2. So 1 1/4, 1 1/2. Then we're going to go 2, 2 1/2, 3. There's one hinge. 3 1/2, 4. 4 1/2 is 2 hinges. 5, 5 1/2, 6 is 3, 6 1/2, 7, 7.5 is 4, 8, 8.5. This is where I need to stop for a minute because I always do this, because I always start and end with half an inch. And I always mess up on that last one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I go overboard? 1. No, I didn't. Sorry. I should have double checked this before I started. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, no, that was right. Because I like to start and end. Let me go over them real quick with you. 1 1/4, 1 1/2. Then we have 2, 2 1/2, 3, 3 1/2, 4, 4 1/2, 5, 5 1/2, 6, 6 1/2, 7, 7 1/2, 8, 8 1/2, and then 8 3/4. There, we've started with. So I have cats that are going to start fighting. Sorry. We started with 1/4 inch and end with a 1/4 inch. But this is silly. What on earth did I do here? All right. For me, it is 8 3/4, but my paper moved. So I'm just going to move that up a little bit. And when I fold it, just to make sure I just fold here on the right one. There we go. Because that's in the back, it's not going to matter that I've got that little extra. Just have to make sure it's straight. Okay, now you can go ahead and on this 1/4 inch, it goes to the back. I like to have that 1/4 inch lip right there. Now you can just start folding your hinges, kind of breaking the fibers here in the paper. And we are going to have to cut that end off. And I just want to make sure that I can get this straight. That 1/4 inch. Okay, now I'm just going to cut off about 1.5 inches. Or you can wait. You don't have to cut it off now if you don't want to. You need enough to you need enough to wrap into the back. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my score tape. You have this 1/4 inch here, so I'm going to skip this, and then I'm going to go tape, tape, skip, all the way down. Tape, tape, skip. So you have 2 in a row. And I'll cut those at the end. Skip, and then we'll put one right here. And then you'll need your 1/4 inch. So your 1/4 inch tape will come in there. Now it's going to probably overlap a little bit, and that's okay. Because once we bend these up, you'll be fine. Make sure it's all down, and then I turn it over. I cut off all the excess. Now I'm going to just remove Not these top ones, but these middle ones. If you accidentally remove it, it's not a big deal, because it is going to be coming off. So now I'm just going to start by folding my hinges together. And you'll see how it comes together as you're folding. And your hinge part, I mean your gusset part, will come backwards. Uh-oh, I'm seeing a little bit of a crooked hinge on mine. Just the way I folded it. Okay. Remember, when you're working with paper, you make it go where you want it to go. And if you're working with a paper like Bella, because it's quite sturdy, it does take a little more pushing on. Okay, now I'm going to play with my hinges. Get them a little bit relaxed. And when you turn it over, you've got to make sure you fold back and still keep that 1/4 inch gusset right there. And then I fold them over each other to make sure that they're going to overlap. And then I go ahead with the longest one first, which is going to be my back one. I'm going to remove all my score tape backing. That's what I push down on itself so that I make sure I keep my 1/4 inch over on this side. Now we're going to have to put some score tape here because we need it to overlap. Okay, when we turn it over, again, you might have to just work your hinges. Now I like to take more of a rounded edge or a flat edge. Something that you know is not going to puncture through your hinges, just to get everything burnished down good onto your score tape. Now sometimes when you do your hinges, it's just folding. And I don't know if you can see how I'm off a little bit there, and I just trim. So if I happen to go a little off on the paper, happens sometimes when we're folding, I just trim it. And then I'm going to take my 1/4 inch score tape and I'm going to go along my hinges here, and I go more towards the top. I like my page to come down, and I don't like score tape to stick out, which I've had it happen when I used to go in the middle or towards the bottom. So I stay more towards the top. Again, that's kind of personal preference. And I've had books in the past where the score tape shows at the bottom because I didn't get my page all the way down, and so I just moved my score tape up. And for me, I think it's easier to get this all done before you put it inside your book, because you can move it, you can turn it, work it a little easier than when it's already stationary into the book. Okay. Again, make sure everything's down, and then trim just your tape that's hanging over the edge. And then for the back side, I have plenty, I think, of the leftovers of my 6x6 inch sheet. So I'm just going to use these, kind of patchwork it, but they're nice big pieces. It's still a nice big piece. Oh. Just use this on top because I didn't quite get to the edge. Okay, now our book. And I pretty much like to center mine. And if you are using score tape or whatever adhesive, make sure you do cover, you know, your outer edges and the inside edges pretty good. I can't get all of it. There we go. Okay, we'll center it down. And again, something flat, rounded edge that you won't go through your book or your hinges with. You can use your finger. I wouldn't recommend a bone folder. I've taken the edge of my bone folder right through my hinges before, and you will cry. Because even though you can get them up, it's usually not very pretty to have to pull these up. Okay, pages. And I like to start with my back page. So I'm going to need to take out all of my implements here. And before I put it down, I always do kind of a pre-check just to make sure it fits. Kind of the old measure twice, cut once. And then I'm just going to open my page. And I don't care how many times you've done this, it's still nerve-wracking. I put it down and then I lay mine down. And this is one reason I don't like my tape to the bottom. Then when I push it down, now see I've got a little bit of maybe an 1/8 to a 1/16 of an inch. But I know now, see my page is going to lay flat. Using my finger. Now let's go to our next one. And that one fits well, so let's remove our score tape. I keep my hand inside. You have to kind of do however it's most comfortable for you. Put it on. Make sure your center, you know, you're up and down to your this page. You don't want to be crooked. And then just push down. Now see how nice that lays flat? And you don't have to use any other method of hinges because it's going to lay nice and flat as long as that's where you've told your page where to go. Now I'm pretty confident my pages are just going to do fine. Again, I'm going to put my hand in. And I'll be honest with you, if you're using the Cartabella paper, it has a beautiful finish, so you've got a little more of leeway if you have to bring your paper up quickly. So I'm laying it down, so I'm laying them right on top of each other, checking my sides to make sure everything's lined up. Now, these are pretty thick pages. So no matter what you do, you're going to have them come up just a little bit. So I have the blank page and then the pockets that way. But you know what? Let me see something. Oh, I think I'm going to turn mine around. I'm going to have my flaps where I had it in the other album facing this, but I'm a little concerned if we might catch each other. No, we'll go ahead and leave it the way it was in my other book. So my solid page with nothing on there is going to go to the front. Oh, that pocket makes it a little stiffer. Square tape on the edge there. All right, let's use the hand. I have that flap, and it's, there we go, it's not as pliable. Again, I want to make sure my pages are the same there. And my front one. Now, with these 1/2 inch gussets, you're going to have plenty of room to embellish this and pack it full of, especially in your pockets, you're going to be able to pack it full of your recipes, tags, all kinds of fun stuff to go inside if you've made the picnic basket. It's going to look adorable in there. Lots of recipes. And there, let's look at it. So you may have already made your cover. Well, hopefully if you've gotten to this stage, your cover's made. So when we open it, we have our flap where we can put some recipes. And then we have our pocket, the flap, and then you'll be able to put your photo mats or plain or however you like it. Now on these pages too, you have freedom. I mean, you can add even more fold-ups, more flaps. So it really does leave you with a lot of flexibility. Now you have also these 3 middle pages that you'll be able to put your flaps in, or your mats in. And I'm going to make one with you. I want to show you what I'm planning on doing because I want it to be more like a file folder with a magnet in it. So I'll show you how I'm going to do those 3. So we have our pocket page here. I love this one. I just think these are so cute, so interesting. And then you have your other fold out. Really adds lots of room. We have our waterfall pockets. Nice wide. And here is where that's going to go. Then we have another pocket. And with your 1/2 inch gussets, you're going to be able to pack those full. And then our little cards. And I think this would be really cute. One thing I want to do with the inside of this is, you know how you can, there's printouts. Just Google it again. Equivalents. So if you want to use, like, instead of buttermilk, I'm going to do one of those. You can use milk and butter. Things like that. So I think I'll find some printouts for those. And now let's make, well, that looks really nice. That blue in there. So let's go ahead and make our file folders to go on the inside. Now our page is 7.5 inches wide. So I'm going to start with my 12-inch paper. I'm going to leave it 12 inches. And I'm going to cut them down to 7 inches wide because you don't want it to be super tight. And I'm going to score this at 6. And for this, I'm going to use my envelope punch board. Fold this up. Now, on this side, because I still want it to be in the middle, I'm going to cut off about 1 inch. And I'm going to be honest with you, I really didn't measure it. I just cut it off. Now, over here, I'm going to put my paper in at 2 1/2. You can use your cutter for this. I don't. I'm just going to grab my blade and my ruler. One reason my cutter doesn't quite have a new blade in it. My small cutter, that is. And then right where that center is, I'm going to make sure I'm straight. And this is where you can just use your cutter to make your file folder. Now, you can use a magnet. You don't have to. One reason I want, I'm going to put the magnet on the inside here, is so that my contents won't fall out. Then it will fit right here in the middle. And when you push it down, your tab will be up. So I'm going to make the middle one, the middle page, the tab's going to be more in the middle. And we'll go ahead and make that. So that's what that's going to look like. Now, so that I can put contents in there and they won't fall out, I'm going to use a magnet. To hold this shut. 3/8 of an inch. And then that way too, I could even make a pocket on the inside. And the magnet's going to hold my contents. And that will fit right on the inside. And guess what? My magnet, it's fighting against the magnet on my flap. But once I get paper on there, it'll be fine. It wants to push it out a little bit. That's okay. So we're going to make another one. Same thing. Oh, and you know what? You can, if you're using your envelope punch board and you want to do your corners different, you can do that. Let me get another one cut. That's what I thought. And I'm not going to cut it till after I score it because I've done that before and then I end up scoring it wrong. Just because I'm me. Take off about an inch. Now, one thing I want to do here, because I want a middle tab. I'm going to have to punch it at both ends. So to make the middle tab, I am going to bring it down. That one was at 2.5. So I'm going to do this one at 2 1/4. I'm going to turn this over. And I'm going to do it again at 2 1/4. And then we're going to cut off the ends. And I'm sorry I keep hitting the camera and you're going flying across the room. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lay my ruler straight across. And you can use your, like I said, your cutter. I'm going to hold it there because I just want to cut both sides the same. There I have my middle tab. And I have my top tab, and I will get a magnet on there. Now I'm going to make my bottom tab. Same thing, another sheet, 7 inches. Scored at 6. Take a little bit off the top, about 1 inch. Let me take off a little bit more. I think I did on the others. Yeah. So I took off 1 1/4 inch. Now I need it to be on the bottom. So I'm just going to turn this over so it's facing down. And if you do it the wrong side, that's okay. You can just refold it. And again, 2.5. Now we're going to cut this way because we want our tab down here at the bottom. And let me put this one on my line it up a little better. Oh, goodness. I need to move my rulers. And there you have the top. Sorry, that magnet, that's really funny. It's pushing out. Then you have your middle. And then you have your side, bottom one. So there's your inner flaps, or mats. Again, just pull them out. Go ahead and if you want to add any pockets, pockets this way. And then you can have your recipes in so they don't fall out. Makes for a really, really cute interaction. And there we have the tutorial. See, it's just got magnets. We're gonna, for right now, just trade these guys. You have your interactive album, and now you just need to go through, mat your pages, decorate it, and if you've made your picnic basket to go with it, what an awesome, awesome gift that you have. Lots of room to embellish, lots of room to stick it full of your recipes. And I'd love to see any of yours when you get them all done and decorated. Over on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. Just head on over and show us your pictures. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, just leave me a message and I'll get back with you. Well, thanks for watching, and I'm glad we finally got it made. This is going to be a fun project, especially for summer. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.